Hello, Just Gem here and welcome, or indeed welcome back to my channel. Recently I gave you my first impressions of Arttitude Cosmetics vintage neutrals. Today it is the turn of urban neutrals. Here it is, right here. As with vintage, it comes with this slidey sleeve. So you slide it out, and that's got the cutout of urban that you can see on there. And here we've got the front of the palette itself. It's cardboard but pretty solid structure. Inside we've got 16 shades, quite a nice mirror there. For all you ASMR lovers out there, I apologise. I don't think this one came with a film. In fact, it didn't, because if it did come with a film, I'd be tearing it off for you now. But it didn't come with one. But it's a nice, sharp, clear mirror that you can use while applying your shadows. And here they are. Here are the 16 shades. I've done the swatches already, yay me. And I'm going to insert them now so you can see them. Here are all 16 shades of the Arttitude Cosmetics Urban Neutrals palette. So some lovely purple, silver, blue, cool toned shades. Pretty nice formula to the touch. I think the driest ones in there are, like the darker ones seem to be quite dry. So Rooftop here, that was one of the driest shades. And then Grunge here, which looks like a black, but I think it's actually a very dark navy. I think they were the driest shade. Rooftop, the very first one in particular. Metro, which is this brown, that was a little dry as well. City felt quite creamy, but there were a few, I think from memory, Downtown and Underground felt a bit drier to the touch. Downtown is this one, and Underground, yeah, I think they felt ever so slightly more grainy. Still relatively smooth, but in comparison, for example, to City, Central and Penthouse, they're more creamy, and then the other two shimmers are just a tiny bit drier to the touch. Not dry to the point where I think you'd get a lot of fallout. Having said that though, Central and Penthouse are quite flaky. They're quite chunky shades, so you might get some fallout with those just because of that. I had said that I thought that vintage would be my favourite of the two. And now that I've done the swatches and these two looks that I've currently got on my eyes, I don't know why I said that. Because look at this. Look at this. I think I had said that because obviously vintage has got the greens, but this has got the blues and the purples, which are my other two loves. So, I mean, vintage has kind of got purple in there as well, hasn't it? But these are more vibrant, and this is just wow, just wow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk you through how I did each look on my eye here, while I do a kind of speed through of me applying said looks. So here we are, I've zoomed you right in. I dug out my Sigma eyeshadow primer, which I had stopped using because I found it too dry on my lids. Now I'm going to have to experiment a bit more. So I don't know if it's a combination of using the Sigma and applying the shimmers with the NYX glitter primer, but I don't have anywhere near as much creasing as I did with Vintage the other day. A tiny bit, like what time is it now? Let's call it, it's a bit after 9:30 p.m, but let's call it 9:30. I finished applying these two looks at 2:30 today. So that's 7 hours of wear that you can see here. And I'd say minimal creasing. Like the creasing you can see is where my lid folds. So like I'll allow that, but there's no major skipping. It just follows the natural crease of my lid. I mean, that I don't think there's any getting around that, but there's no massive gaps where the oils have peeked through and separated the eyeshadow. Those are both eyes after just over 7 hours. I'm loath to wash these off, to be honest. I think both of these looks are so pretty, even if I do say so myself. I really, like, I love the tones of the blues in this. They almost remind me a little bit of the tones of the shades in Longing. I feel like this purple is more vibrant than anything that's in Longing. I'm going to wash this off, just the eyes, to do a reset. But I really don't want to. I've really enjoyed these shades today. Like, I did some Insta stories and I don't want to take them off. I'm back. Eyelids are reset, possibly ever so slightly stained, but I think that'll be okay, and I will tidy things up with concealer afterwards, and that should make everything look considerably better. I already know what shades I'm going to use. One thing I will say about Urban over Vintage is I found it much easier to eyeball and put colours together. Vintage I had to ponder more, and I don't know if that's just because the shades vary more in that palette, so there's just a tiny bit more thinking involved. But today, or right now I should say, I'm going to use the shade Edgy here, so that's going to be blown out in my crease, and then I'm going to deepen things up with Streets down here. And I'll probably deepen things up further with Metro up here. And for my lid, I'm going to use City because I believe that's the only shimmer that I've not yet used. So City it is. These brushes, like, don't judge me, they are still dirty, but I have washed every other brush. Conscious that I wanted to film, I left these ones to the side and they're going to get a thorough clean tomorrow. Yeah, so just when I was eyeballing this, immediately looking at Underground, Skyscraper and Penthouse, I knew I wanted to use those in a look together to give a bit of a monochromatic look. It was just a very standout, easy look to go for. I'm trying desperately, well, no, maybe not desperately, that's not the right word, but I'm just trying to get ahead of myself basically when it comes to filming, so that I'm in a good position when I go back to work. So I want to have enough content sort of pre-filmed so that when I start to get busy, I've always got 1 or 2 videos to fall back on. That's what I've learnt from doing this last year, is that while I've got the downtime, I should try to sort of film as much as I can while I've got the time, the inclination, and quite frankly the energy to do so. So that was my Refa 15 that I've just used to put edgy blown out through the crease. I think I'll use my 14, and now we're going to go in with Streets. And when I was thinking about the looks that I wanted to demo, at least initially, I think I wanted to almost lean into the fact that yes, you can do a pretty bold purple look, and yes, you can do a pretty bold blue look, but instantly I could see that there was a definite possibility in this palette to be able to do a cool leaning neutral look. So I wanted to be able to demonstrate that for you. And obviously I'm going to be doing in-depth comparisons, but right off the bat, one of the criticisms that I had of Cooltrals is that it was lacking a proper brown, which is something that Urban Neutrals does have. So I'm finding that these mattes do layer over each other rather beautifully. I'm going into Metro now, so that's the deepest brown in the palette, and concentrating that right on the very end here. So unlike with Streets, which I carried through a little bit, I'm concentrating Metro towards the outer corner and half of my lid. I had mentioned in my Nomad Cosmetics Polar Express first impressions that I'd probably put in a deeper brown. Like, it didn't warrant a black, the colour story, but I thought that there could have been an ever so slightly deeper brown in there to deepen things up, and I feel like Metro is that brown. That's the matte shades laid down. Now I'm going in with my NYX glitter primer. Let's see if I can get this on my lid and not on my lashes like I have been doing. Now City, which was very impressive when I swatched it. And I'll use my little finger to start. I mean, I'm not sure how neutral it's remained by using this shade, but I don't know if you can see the shift in this. I feel like I should zoom you in a little bit for this. I don't know if you can see that. But that's pretty stunning. I wonder if I can sheer it out a bit. I almost prefer it a bit sheerer. Yeah, there we go. I think you can see the shift a bit more now that I've sheared it out. Oh, that's nice. Is that even? Yeah, I think so. City is a very, very pretty shade. Let me... Has that helped? Can you see the shift a bit better now? Look, I feel like I need an inner corner highlight. Do I try a matte shade again? Shall I try fresh? Should I go wild? Let me do my under eye and then maybe I will try fresh as an inner corner highlight. I'll go with Metro and I'll smoke that out a little bit with Streets, I think. Alright, I think you get the idea. I'm going to tidy all of this up and hopefully come back looking fabulous, and then I'll give you my first impressions of Urban Neutrals. Be right back. I am back and here is the finished look, and I've got to say I might be a matte inner corner highlight convert. I've been nervous to try it, but I've tried it again in this look and I think it kind of works. I think it works. So all I've done to finish things off is, I think I mentioned I would just run over the underneath with Metro and soften it out just a little bit with Streets, and then Fresh is my matte inner corner highlight, and that's the look, guys. That's the third and final look. Of the three looks, do you have a favourite? I'm quite liking this as a toned down, like it's very muted in comparison even to the first two looks. See, now I am looking over at this mirror because it does give a nice overall picture. City as a shade is, I mean, I don't know what colour you can see looking at the screen here, but looking at myself in that mirror beside me, it's got pink, it's got gold, it's got like a hint of purple in there. It's just a really beautiful multichrome. I think that probably shows it off to you a little bit more. If I turn that light off. I don't know, sometimes I can't do these shades justice. I saw Rooks shared someone saying that City was a shade that you just have to see in person because it's just stunning. Really, really beautiful. And I think it's worked quite well having sort of the toned down matte shades to really let City have its moment. But I'd be curious, I'm going to play around with the different combinations and see what it looks like when you do use it with the more vibrant shades in the palette. But I think using it with the browns in there has kind of really let it shine. I'm going to do some comparisons quickly. I'm running out of steam, but while I already pulled these palettes out, so I'm thinking while I'm here, let's just do it. I did film these comparison swatches live, but I used my phone and the camera angle was just dodgy. I might see what I can salvage, but this is also better lighting, and I think you can see the swatches more true to colour when I actually use my camera. I also realised while I was swatching them that I'd missed out this comparison on the end, so I've tagged it on. So apologies that the swatches aren't live, but I think this is going to be better quality, even though I'm not doing it right in front of the camera for you to see. So I'll just run through the two sides. I should say that the top side generally is the Cooltrals side. I'll explain that momentarily. And the bottom side is the Urban Neutrals side. And it's done that way because when I filmed the footage earlier, it made sense to have it that way round. But obviously now it makes a bit less sense having it that way round. Right, so I'll run through them and let you know which shades are which. Rooftop and Shadow. Then I've got City, and I've swatched that next to Gravitate and Secret from Cooltrals. I skipped Metro and Concrete because there are no dupes. Then I've got Fresh next to Cooltral and Attract. I've skipped over Urban because that's a very vibrant purple, so no matches. Edgy, you have to jump to the end here because I skipped that out. But we've got Edgy next to Eternal. Then I've got Central next to Tempting. Downtown next to Slate and Secret. Metropolis is next to Stone Cold. Underground I've skipped because there are no dupes. And then when we get to Nightlife, this is where I think I messed up a little bit. I had meant to only compare it to Grounded and Natural, but I'd accidentally got Intuition involved. I think I was getting myself a bit muddled with the swatches a bit later when I was making my notes over what to swatch. So apologies that that's got a bit awry, but that's Nightlife, Grounded, Natural, Intuition. Then we get back on track, and I've skipped Streets because there's no browns. Penthouse I've put next to Infinity. Skyscraper I've put Hidden and Intuition. Then I've got Grunge and Eclipse. Those are the comparison shades. And what I will say, Arttitude's formula is much smoother and swatches better, and the Cooltrals formula is much drier, and that applies to both the shimmers and the mattes. Even the less textured shimmers in Urban, they still feel a bit more creamy and more sort of emollient, whereas the special shades like the shimmers in Cooltrals just have this dryness to them. And when I was swatching them, which is one of the reasons I'm a bit annoyed that the footage is terrible, I did have to go in a few times just to get the Cooltrals swatches to show up as much as the Urban swatches. As I say, I mean, this doesn't affect the performance of Cooltrals, but just to let you know the differences in the formula there. I had mentioned that I thought that there were some similarities, mainly in tone rather than exact shades, but I thought I'd show some comparisons with Longing from Blend Bunny as well anyway. So from the wrist down, we've got Arttitude on top and Longing on the bottom. Grunge with Unrequited. Concrete with Bottled Up, Fresh with Dear Diary, Metropolis with Sonder, Skyscraper with Old Photos, and then for the special shades I've swatched Central next to Love Letters and Penthouse next to Remember. So I'd say very similar vibes, and it just reminded me a little bit of Longing in a few ways, so I just thought I'd dig that out and do a few quick swatches of that too. Okay, I've done 3 looks, I've done a longevity test, I've done some swatches, I've done some comparisons. What are my first impressions? I'm gonna have to play a bit more, but I think despite the fact that Cooltrals has more shades in it, I think I'm going to have to give the edge to Arttitude. And one of the reasons Arttitude trumps it is because my complaint with Cosmic Brushes Cooltrals was that it didn't have a cool tone brown. And I think if Grounded, and I said it then, I'm going to say it again, but Grounded in here, which is that shade there, I think they missed a beat by not having that be a brown. It's called Grounded, it should have been a brown, and I think that would have added some extra versatility to Cooltrals. I still like Cooltrals a lot, but it's funny to me because despite the fact that that's got 20 shades, so it's got 4 more shades than Urban Neutrals does, I think Urban Neutrals is gonna be that little bit more versatile. I don't know. I might do a more in-depth comparison anyway. I mean, I put it to the vote and you guys said you wanted a comparison in this video. But I just think that despite having 4 less shades, there's a bit more versatility in here. I think this look shows you that because it's got the neutralness that you can't really get from Cooltrals. That's, yeah. So I think, extremely similar vibes. And you can 100% see why I was so keen to compare these two to each other. I think there's not actually much overlap. There isn't. They're sister palettes. They're fraternal twins, let me say. Fraternal twins. I think they pair well together. I think, off the top of my head, I think the only exact dupes were Edgy and Stone Cold, and Metropolis and Eternal were super, super close. Is there room for both of them? I think there is room for both. I do. I didn't think that there would be. But they're almost like an extension to each other. And again, early days, but I think I prefer the formula in Arttitude. I mean, I was thinking that even when I tested vintage neutrals and I was feeling the way that they swatched, I think Arttitude might have the edge when it comes to the formula. Don't get me wrong, Cosmic Brushes, the shades still perform, but there's just this dryness to them that just makes them a little bit, like especially with some of the shimmers, put down a NYX glitter primer and it's fine. But even sometimes with a finger, I think you might struggle. You get more oomph when you use a NYX glitter primer with the shimmers in vintage neutrals. But even if you were to just go in with a finger, they'd still be striking. They would just lack that wow factor. The minute you get the NYX primer, the NYX glitter primer involved, or any kind of adhesive primer, you're gonna get a punch, definitely. If I could only pick one, like if someone said to me, you're gonna have to get rid of one of them, Cooltrals or Urban Neutrals, I'd get rid of Cooltrals. Bold statement, because we know how I feel about Cosmic Brushes. But if someone said I could only pick one, I would 100% pick Urban Neutrals. Just to show you those again, side by side, so you can see them. I mean, have you got these both? Obviously, I know that this is new, but do you have them both? Do you have this already and you're contemplating Urban Neutrals? Have I just thrown a spanner in the works with my comparison and by saying that I think Urban Neutrals has the edge? I don't know, maybe that's controversial, but let me know. I really want to hear what you guys have to say about this one when it comes to these two. But like, even this, it's got like this just similar vibes. But yeah, my battery is flashing at me. It's almost depleted, and quite frankly, so am I. I'm ready for my bed. So I'm going to leave it there, but I'm going to say, as always, thank you for taking the time to watch. I really hope that you found this video useful. If you have, don't forget to give it a like, leave me a comment down below, and obviously to subscribe, and hit that bell notification so you know when I upload in the future. Take care, and hopefully I'll see you again in a video in a not too distant future. Bye.